You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. Ukrainian National Guard soldier Vitali Markiv has returned home. The Milan Court of Appeals acquitted him in the murder of an Italian correspondent. The Minister of Internal Affairs is preparing a claim to the European Court of Human Rights for the fact that an innocent Ukrainian was kept in prison for 3 years. Details in our report.
In front of the maximum security prison opera not far from Milan, a soldier of the National Guard of Ukraine, Vitali Markev, is met by journalists, representatives of the Ukrainian authorities, the diaspora and his mother. The Milan Court of Appeal has dropped charges against Markev for the murder of Italian journalist Andrea Roccalli. The latter died in 2014 during the battles near Sloviansk in the Donetsk region. Markev says he didn't believe in the acquittal.
Це надзвичайна подія.
This is an extraordinary event. We have shown that truth exists, justice exists, and my first conviction proved that Kremlin propaganda has no limits.
The struggle for the release of Markev lasted more than 3 years. The first instance court sentenced him to 24 years in prison. Ukrainian investigators conducted dozens of interrogations and examinations to prove the innocence of the National Guard soldier. It was established that Vitali was far from the place of the journalist's death and could not shoot him.
Сьогодні команда адвокатів і команда
Today, the team of lawyers and the team of our accomplices, all those who gathered here today, were able to present arguments. And the Milan Court of Appeals made a decision, a courageous decision, because the trial court ignored the facts as they were. Vitali could not shoot the journalist. Vitali was elsewhere, and his accusations were thoroughly based only on the testimony of French journalist.
The Ukrainian side sought to reconsider the case of Vitali Markev at the highest level. The negotiations were also led by the President Volodymyr Zelensky. The head of state considers the release of the Ukrainian a victory of justice.
This news gives all of us strength and faith in the success of the further struggle for every citizen of Ukraine who, unfortunately, is still illegally held captive or in prison. None of them is forgotten. We will return everyone.
Great Britain reacted to the release of Vitali Markev. Ambassador Melinda Simmons called the decision of the Milan Court of Appeals fair and congratulated all those involved who fought for the release of the Ukrainian. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Gajewska, UATV News.
"100 days of ceasefire in Donbass. It has begun on July 27. The Ukrainian military and illegal armed groups are prohibited from using drones, conducting reconnaissance, and equipping new positions. During this period, the armed forces of Ukraine recorded 273 provocations from the uncontrolled territories. According to the Joint Forces Operation Command, 3 soldiers were killed, 11 were wounded. At the moment, the situation in the east of the country is complicated.
The Russian side is actively continuing its actions to discredit, first of all, the armed forces and the leadership. Many different scenarios are being played out, and the information campaign is underway. And the forces, I have noted, are constantly carrying out provocative actions. These are shellings mainly from small arms and violations in terms of mining.
New anti-records, 9,525 infected with coronavirus were detected during the past day in Ukraine. 199 people died. This is also the maximum since the beginning of the pandemic. At the same time, a record 7,536 patients recovered. The leaders in the number of the cases of COVID-19 are Kyiv, Kharkiv, Donetsk and Odessa regions. The smallest number of patients is in Kirovohrad region.
Once again, I want to emphasize that your family doctor, for whom the state pays money, should interview you, find out the symptoms and, if necessary, by determining that these are really symptoms of coronavirus disease, should call a mobile team which will test you.
Vote counting continues in the USA. Both presidential candidates retain their chances of winning. Our correspondent Alexei Matsuka reports the latest information from the USA.
Pennsylvania voters play a critical and possibly key role in the choosing of the next president. Long queues lined up at many polling stations. On the 3rd of November, people also voted for the members of Congress, the Attorney General, Auditor and Treasurer here. The polls opened on Tuesday amid the coronavirus pandemic, recent police shooting and riots in Philadelphia. It is likely that they will also face with long litigation because of the voting ballots' arrival delay. More than 99 million voters voted early and tens of millions on election day.
We always just vote in person. I didn't quite, with everything going on, we weren't really confident in the mail-in process. Because with all the Supreme Court stuff going on, everything going through the courts, we didn't want to chance our vote not being counted.
I mean, like I said, equality. Hopefully everything gets cleared up and we can all learn how to live together.
Candidate Joe Biden spent November the 3rd in Philadelphia. He came to the Independence Hall. It is a building on Independence Square in Philadelphia, known as the place where the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776 and later the U.S. Constitution.
I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted.
Donald Trump's election campaign was held under the slogan "Let's Keep America Great," as a continuation of his first campaign, "Let's Make America Great Again."
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment.
And our last stop on election day in the United States is Wilmington, Delaware. Joe Biden's headquarters here. The coronavirus intervened in this campaign, and Biden's events are held strictly in compliance with all safety standards, so not to pose a threat of infection. This is the final night of the campaign. Biden, a few meters from here, followed the results of the campaign with us all night. Reported by Vadim Kramer, Alexei Matsuka, Ruslan Belozerov, Philadelphia, Wilmington, UATV News.
Those who disagree with the results of the presidential elections are already protesting in the USA, although the results have not been officially announced yet. In Washington, D.C., peaceful demonstrations escalated into clashes with the police. Several people were detained. In Seattle, protesters with banners "Black Lives Matter" blocked traffic off the roads. Protests were also held in New York, Oregon and Portland. Cooperation of Ukrainian IT companies and the Silicon Valley. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Ukrainian Bridge signed a memorandum. They agreed to conduct joint training, seminars and business meetings. Ukrainian Bridge as a platform for promoting Ukraine and Silicon Valley and popularizing its opportunities for Ukrainians. According to Dmytro Kuleba, support of Ukrainian business on foreign sites is one of the priority areas of the ministry's work.
We want to develop the Ukrainian digital economy, involve more American Silicon Valley companies in this interaction, and in general, we want to have more investment in Ukraine, for the Ukrainian IT companies to have the best opportunities to export their services.
Reinventing the bicycle is possible. Sergiy Izosov from Kharkiv is doing this. He assembles bicycles from sewing machines, rolling pins and meat grinder handles. The engineer turned his yard into a real workshop. Our correspondent visited him.
Well, here you see the birth of a new bicycle. In this case, we'll have a bicycle of such a beautiful cherry color. Here are the spokes. Now it is all simple for us and does not cause any difficulties.
Sergiy Izosov is working on a new model. At 69, making bicycles is what the engineer loves most. And he sees inspiration in household items, for example, in an old sewing machine. He assembled such a designer bicycle from it. The model participated in competitions in the post-Soviet countries.
This is a design work absolutely not intended for movement. This is not a transport, but a construction joke. When I began to carefully examine the sewing machine, I looked. There is a wheel, and I thought, if there is a wheel, then a bicycle is hidden somewhere in it.
The engineer assembled his first bicycle with his son in some 4 days. This is a copy of Penny Farthing, a two-wheeled great-grandfather of modern bicycles from England. The collection also has a unique specimen. It was bought by fans of retro bikes.
Вот велосипед на 3 колесах.
Here is a bicycle on 3 wheels, and this is absolutely my invention. Why? Because bicycles of a kind do not exist in the world. I saw something similar to the cartoon Gulliver's Journey, made somewhere between the 30s and the 40s, but it's still not that.
The engineer assembles not only bicycles, he also restored phaetons, sleds and carts, according to old blueprints. They were also bought by connoisseurs of old inventions.
Это венгерская повозка 50-х годов.
This is a Hungarian cart of 1950s. There were about 600 of them in Kharkiv. Foremen used them at the collective farms, doctors drove them as well. This is a kind of a horse-drawn light transport.
The engineer plans to arrange a massive old bicycles right in capital and get into the Ukrainian Book of Records. But first he needs to collect a few penny farthings and recruit a team. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Belokudrya, UATV News.
That's all for today. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Stay safe and good night.